Okay. Megan Munsell, name?
Broc Boyd.
Broc Boyd. Do you have a middle name?
Broc Daily Boyd.
Oh, okay.
That's my middle name.
Is that your Instagram name?
Mm-hmm. It is.
I thought, I don't know. I never made the correlation.
It's a middle name.
Okay. So I invited Broc on my show last week because the Black Lives Matter movement was happening. Some protests were happening. CrossFit was silent about the whole thing. Wasn't making a statement. Obviously, everybody else was making a statement. Hopefully in solidarity.
Right.
Some folks weren't. But look at the dog. Whatever. Some folks weren't. But CrossFit was silent about the whole thing. So I was like, hey, Broc, would you want to have a conversation about the movement, the protests, CrossFit's silence, and the impact of the whole thing? And you were like, yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
And you're such a trooper about it.
Yeah.
And then the whole world exploded.
Everything is unraveled in the last 40 hours or so.
Yeah. So this all sort of started. Scout really wanted to be a part of it. It's still going, I think. She just creeped the door open.
Yeah,
Pull it like 2. Without her. Thank you. So Vicky works from home, and this is her office from her work from home.
Yeah.
And the dog has a special bed that she sits in here with Vicky all day, every day. So
right. That's fair.
she was hoping it was one of those kinds of things.
Not one of those parties, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So we had a conversation about talking about the whole thing. Friday evening, I got a text message from a friend that was like, hey, check this out. She sent me a link to the Reddit article with text messages regarding Jessica Griffith and Travis Williams. I went through that. There was a gentleman that was already following me on Instagram that had posted videos of DM conversations and text message conversations in his Instagram account that contained the entire thread.
Yeah.
Basically, at that point, it was not something that could have been taken out of context. It was not something that could have been misunderstood. It was an athlete using a super inappropriate word and then a friend defending that word instead of saying, hey, bro, not cool.
Exactly.
And it seems like the CrossFit world has sort of slipped downhill from there.
Yep. That was kind of the first domino to fall.
Yeah. Since then, there was a really rude email from Greg Glassman that was released, which, the thing about the United States is your freedom of opinion, freedom of speech, right? You can say whatever you want. However, you have to be okay with when you are the figurehead of an organization and or business to understand the ramifications of those decisions. Absolutely. And there should be.
Right. Rightfully so. Right.
I mean, you're going to judge my character on the words I say to you.
Yes.
And, and then he tweeted some stuff that was also super inappropriate and then kind of doubled down on that. And then there was also Travis Williams released an apology and then has since doubled down on his defense of an inappropriate word.
Yes.
And now, where it stands right now, few minutes ago, Chandler Smith stated he's not going to participate in the CrossFit Games. And as of the past 2 hours, my phone's been blowing up as gyms mass unaffiliate.
Exodus. It is a mass exodus of gyms out there. I mean, across the world. This is not just strictly the United States. This is across the world.
Yeah. I think it all kind of started with Katrin David's daughter this afternoon.
Right. Saw it.
Stated that she wasn't sure if she was going to participate in events anymore. I think it's crackling, but it's still going to record. And it all kind of unfolded from there.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Where do you want to... It is June 7th, 7:36, year of our Lord and Savior, Black Jesus. Where do you want to start with this, unpacking this thing?
Do you think gyms should be unaffiliating? based on the information they have at hand right now?
I think that based on the information that they have, gyms have a choice that they need to make. With everybody in this current climate, abstaining from making a stance is making a stance.
Right.
And I think in the same way as a gym, abstaining from making a decision is making a decision.
Right.
We have molded our lifestyle and methodology around the idea that it is inclusive to everyone.
Right.
Colors, genders, races, nationalities. It is overly inclusive, right? And which is a great thing for the world, and that's why it's caught on for the last 10 years, and now it's like somebody hit the e-brake, and gyms now are stand at a fork in the road. How can you base your business model and your lifestyle and your affiliation with somebody who's clearly chosen a side, and that's extremely exclusive.
It seemed like he was unhinged for a while.
Well, absolutely. I mean, everybody in the CrossFit community has kind of seen this unravel from the damn near sudden elimination of regionals, and then
right. The elimination. There was the elimination of regionals, which basically was sort of, as competitive athletes, sort of our take on the whole thing was our come to Jesus meeting, but it really was sort of a 90-degree shift in the way that CrossFit operated.
Right.
They were primarily an events-based company. They canceled their event staff, media and otherwise, and started relying heavily on catering to, we'll say, elderly white people. Yep. Correct?
Correct.
Which, I mean, based on the statistics, most CrossFitters are 30 to 35-year-old white women. So that may not have even been the basis of their community at that time, much less the basis of a community that they were trying to include. Right?
Yep.
And then since, but I think everyone sort of had this level of comfort that they sought. Everyone's like, well, my friends are here, and this is what I'm already okay with. And so despite that sort of unhinging of Greg Glassman at the time, it was kind of easier to stay than it was to go.
Yes.
Until now.
It just got a lot harder to stay. It's got a lot harder to defend a stance that is highly divisive and exclusive and goes against the model that we...
Here's my question. What is it exclusive to?
I think it's exclusive to social issues that are the foundation of who we are as a community, right?
Yeah.
Like we've built this model that it includes men, women, LGBT.
But that's what we're trying. We are as inclusive.
Yeah.
But Greg is exclusive.
Yes.
To whom?
To people who fight in social justice, right? To everybody, right? To everybody who believes in this inclusive environment.
Who does he want? Who does he want to be?
That's a great question. Like I think Greg just wants to be around. He just wants to be
around Greg.
Greg. He over the past couple of years, we've seen this unfold more and more. It's about, and it's pretty funny because I mean, look who our leader is. Somebody that just wants to be heard, right? And that it's all about him, and that it's his ship, and he's going to steer it in the direction that he wants.
I think the fundamental problem with this whole thing is like if you go to CrossFit, the CrossFit Games social media account, like I think it's at CrossFit rather than at CrossFit Games, they're following 0 people.
Yeah.
And I've partnered with some friends who have connections with HQ, and they've voiced that HQ is frustrated, and Greg sent a very, 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 very deliberate email saying, I do, to that woman.
Yeah.
And to saying, I don't want your feedback.
Correct.
I don't care about your feedback. I don't care about your opinion. I don't care about what you think. Right? So I think maybe the exclusivity is literally to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe not even to an ethnicity or to a race or to a demographic, but literally to everyone.
To everybody.
He literally does not care about hearing anything contrary to his own conviction.
Yes. I mean, when in doubt, usually the loudest people in the room have the least amount to say. They just want to be heard. Like, what are they saying? Usually, they're saying the same thing over and over again, just louder and louder. Like, he's made his point very clear that, hey, this is about me. This is my thing. This is where it's going. I don't care about anybody else. But even in the email, I mean, you can pull it up and read it yourself.
It's
so what do you take from that?
It's like the thing about all of it is like whether or not you're wrong. You support your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, like if you really care about somebody, you care about a community, you care about your members, you care about your affiliate, you care about your friends,
mm-hmm.
right? And hopefully these affiliates are communities of friends.
Absolutely.
And your friends are saying, hey, I'm, feeling this way. And you support them.
Yep.
No matter, I haven't experienced it, or I have experienced it, or this is my opinion, or
mm-hmm.
blue, green, or otherwise.
It is free.
You support your friends.
To just say, hey, I'm with you. I am not going to leave you, right?
Right.
And the thing was, this was unprompted, right? Like, how about if you don't understand something, right? And especially in this climate, if you don't understand something, say nothing, right? Save face, just say nothing. But this man went out of his way to make sure that he was heard and that his message was clearly conveyed in multiple avenues, email and now social media and text. And it sucks because of the timing of everything. He clearly has supporters in the CrossFit community, right? I mean, people that stand with him in exclusion.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Right, but I'm just like with the text messages with
okay,
in the
yeah,
group, right? So
we'll
people that stand in exclusion.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a whole nother conversation, right? So, the text messages. So Jessica Griffith said the N-word, and she was saying that she said it as a compliment to another athlete, which I will be fully transparent here. I was having a conversation with Vicky, and I tend to be a little loose with words anyway. And I was like, I cannot remember a time I said that.
Right.
And I was like, that's the sort of thing where maybe you would accidentally say it in the car while rapping, and then you would feel weird.
Correct. Even if you're by yourself, but as it should be.
And then you and then you would feel weird, and maybe and then I would feel weird for a second, and then just kind of go back to rapping, right?
Real quick.
But I would alone in the car rapping to Lil Wayne feel uncomfortable saying
Absolutely,
it.
as you should. Like, hello. I don't know this woman. I can't speak for her. I'm trying. You don't make excuses for it, but it's like the excuse that came up with it. You can't, right? Like, how is that a negotiable thing?
But okay, so let's tie it in. So here's the bigger question that I haven't been able to wrap my mind around.
Let's do it.
Is this an indicator of a bigger cultural problem with CrossFit?
Yes.
I mean, because, these are a collection. I don't know how many individuals are in this group chat. Let's say 10.
Mm-hmm.
10 CrossFit Games individuals.
Correct.
And only one, the black member of the group, said, not cool.
Yeah.
The others were silent.
Yes.
And one individual defended her.
Yep. That speaks volumes. But think about it like this. If it were a psychological experiment, right? 10 is a pretty decent sample size, especially of elite CrossFit Games athletes, right? You could say that's pretty representative. I'm sure there were, different ethnicities and all that stuff, right? It speaks volumes about how things went down. One person spoke out, obviously the person of color. Nobody else said nothing, and then one person defended. Oof. Come on, people. This is your chance, right? This is, you're Aaron Judge at the plate. They put it on a tee, and you can just hit a home run, right? You just knock it out of the park and stand up for something, especially now. What else do you need? Right? And nothing was said. Crickets.
But again, it's like, if you are siloing yourself with only people that, or like in Glassman's case, he's not surrounding himself with anyone.
Yes.
And in this case, these athletes are surrounding themselves with people who are just like them.
Yep.
Then it's like, CrossFit in general is really, it's a siloed community.
Yes.
of whiteness.
At the top, absolutely. And then
Affluent white.
very affluency. I think affluency
Affluent whiteness.
Yeah, yeah. I think affluency has a is a more accurate descriptor than whiteness.
Yeah, we went to the same gym for a long time, which
Yeah.
was incredibly diverse.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I also, to an extent, was a bit sheltering, right? Because we assumed that everybody was like us, and everybody had this incredibly diverse, Jamaican, Nigerian, Kenyan, Black,
Indian.
Venezuelan,
Yeah.
Super Indian
Yeah.
community, and that's not the case.
Correct. So to go back to your question, is it an illustration or a microcosm of kind of some of the issues in CrossFit? I would think so. I think that affluency and to a certain degree, whiteness is very well represented in the CrossFit community. Hence, you look at the top athletes, right? I mean, top 10.
Top 20.
Top 20.
Other than,
right?
I mean,
What do
Chandler Smith.
Absolutely.
But who, and I feel bad because of Marquand Jones and Chandler Smith and Elijah Muhammad are now these.
Yes. We're put in a position as black athletes, and I think it all trickles down because, again, saying nothing is taking a stand, right?
Yeah.
So now, even think Dave Castro as a brown,
he's Hispanic.
Hispanic man.
I think he's Mexican.
Right.
Of Mexican origin.
Latino, right?
Yeah.
What kind of position are you put in now? Do you say nothing? Do you say something? Do you disaffiliate? Do you have the power here to make a really strong stand? It's very interesting with all these things. You have to really choose your words wisely, so the message is clearly conveyed, right? Which is it's a funny way to put things. Speaking of what Greg Glassman said, his message was clearly conveyed. So in CrossFit it's for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that exactly, like, affluency is a huge deal, and if you look at the systematic issues that we see in our country, right, a lot of minority communities do not have the money to participate in CrossFit.
That's true.
It's like lacrosse, right? The only I was the only black kid on my lacrosse team in high school. My mom, single white mother, right? I could not afford to play lacrosse. The only reason why I got a chance to play lacrosse is that the parents on the team gave me a scholarship to travel and to play and to buy equipment, all those things, right? And so we look at the CrossFit community, right?
It's for everyone who can afford $150 a month membership.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Who has that surplus of money, right? Who can show up and, you look at then what are you paying for in CrossFit? Like, a lot of these gyms, that same $150 a month, you're not getting steam room, pool, like various types of classes, spin classes, all those things that you would at a Lifetime 24, Cowboys Fit, all that stuff. I mean, you're paying more or less just for community. And all your friends are going, right?
Yeah.
And so, which is funny because I'm thinking about my friends that I have in CrossFit. I got one black friend, in CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, it's kind of it's a good time to kind of bring up those social questions to kind of press for change and press for additional inclusion,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And people are going to be like, well, national champions, the national champions aren't white, right?
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
These sneaky passports.
Yeah, seriously. All of a sudden, you're like, man.
I show up as a Kenyan.
Yeah, pretty fair skin for someone from Ghana, right? It's like, oh, well, my great grandfather,
I got that passport.
Yeah, right. And it's hard and it's tough. A tough conversation to have. But I mean, this period in time right now in history it is time for these tough conversations.
Absolutely. Right? It reminds. This is an overgeneralization, but it reminds me a lot of the Me Too movement.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like, before a lot of these things were kind of swept under the rug, and now they were kind of brought into the light. And obviously, like, we all knew this before, but there was such a sort of subordinate tolerance for it for some reason. And now, it's just not tolerated.
Yeah. So
the text messages came up. Misfits immediately terminated their contracts. Appropriate, I think.
Yep.
But Misfits didn't tell anyone. They said they didn't speak because Chandler asked them not to.
Sure.
I respect that.
Yeah.
You think Misfits handled it appropriately?
I think when you have an open ear
Yeah.
and you listen to the people that's affected by most, I think they put in a great effort to handle it as appropriately as possible. With Greg Glassman's comments, a lot of people are handcuffed, right? Like, what do you do? You're talking about people's jobs. So if you take a stand, you could possibly lose your job to work for CrossFit HQ.
Yeah.
And so you put a lot
Which provides for your family.
for your family.
Yeah.
You know, take care of your family in that
Yeah.
aspect. So a lot of people are put in a position of just being pigeonholed and stuck.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'll circle back to Misfits. I don't have a problem with how they handled it, but I'm not a person of color. The text message didn't involve me, so
Sure. Yeah.
you know it's easy for me to be like, they did a great job,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
'Cause I mean that's how we got here, right?
Yeah.
And it's now you see a lot of this like, oh, Travis said sorry, so that's what we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like easy for me to like let people off the hook
Absolutely.
when they may not need to. But circling back to